There is a curious habit in this nation, of late, to wield an axe. Not for the careful thinning of the woods but for the joy of felling. To cut first and ask later. To declare war on the very institutions that have, for more than a century, made our public lands, our great works of transportation, and the quiet devotion of public servants possible. Public lands are our highest covenant with ourselves. They exist not for profit, nor for the indulgence of the few, but as the tangible expression of a democracy that sees beyond the immediate. Beyond the year's balance sheet. Beyond the market's hunger. Beyond the election cycle. And beyond the capricious whims of Silicon Valley. They are places where the waters still run clear and the elk still find shelter. Where a man or woman might, for a moment, stand apart from the clamor and hear the deeper voice of the land. But such places are not given. They are not kept by neglect or wishful thinking. They endure because of the quiet, patient labor of those who serve. Not for wealth, nor fame, but because they believe in the solemn work of stewardship. The foresters who walk the burn lines. The engineers who draw up the roads and bridges that connect isolated communities to the vast, humming lifeblood of the nation. The planners who weigh each decision with the understanding that what is set in motion today will shape a century hence. To sneer at this work, to view the government that maintains it as an unthinking machine to be made lean, is to misunderstand the very thing being dismantled. Government is not a factory, nor should it be measured by the standards of one. The worth of the Park Service cannot be reckoned in revenue per visitor, nor should we expect a ranger in Yosemite to consider the year's budget before sending men to contain a fire. If the Forest Service were to charge what it costs to fight blazes, to rebuild trails, to restore lands stripped by careless hands, what family would afford to stand beneath the redwoods? If our roads into the heart of our wild places were to pay their true freight, what traveler could reach them? A nation that believes only in the dollar's reckoning would sell its own birthright for a pittance. Yet there are those who wield the axe and call it reform. They take apart not just budgets, not just payrolls, but tear asunder the people who help hold this vast and intricate landscape together. They gut offices, shutter programs, send away those who have spent decades learning the delicate balance between land and law, people and place. They call this efficiency. They call this the free market at work. But a broken thing is not made stronger by breaking it further. A bridge does not assemble itself, and it is far easier to destroy than to create. I once hiked up a volcano in Latin America. The land was barren, the air still, the earth stripped to rock and dust. When I asked our guide why there was so little life, so few trees, so few birds, he only shrugged and said, "We ate it." There was no malice in his voice, no shame. Just a simple fact. When survival called, the forest answered. And when the forest was gone, there was nothing left to answer. To conserve is to hold fast. To resist the temptation of short-term gain, and the cheap applause of destruction. It is to acknowledge that some things cannot be reduced to simple economics. The men and women of the Civilian Conservation Corps understood this. So too did those who laid rail and road across the wilderness, not to extract from it, but to let all who would care to, see it and know it. They built not for profit, but for posterity. Today, those who would strip the land and starve the system call themselves conservatives, but they are nothing of the sort. Conservation is an act of faith in the future. To tear down what has been carefully tended by generations, to sell off that which was meant for all, is no act of prudence. It is, instead, the short-sighted work of men who do not know the weight of what they are undoing. And so the question remains, will we cut blindly, for the sake of cutting? Will we eat it all, or will we remember that some things are not to be voraciously devoured?